Hey everybody, happy Friday. I hope you had a great week. This is Justine McIntyre, and I'm here with Frank Baylis, the candidate for the Liberal leadership. It's going to be our last town hall, so I'm really happy that you're joining us. We once again got a ton of questions, and we're going to change up the format a little bit because it is Friday. It's been a long week. It's been a long campaign. It's been a great campaign. We're having a great time, and thank you. We want you to stick with us for the whole show. So we do have a couple of little surprises. This is surprise number one. Am I holding it upside down? Okay, let's do it this way. Here it is, number one, Frank Baylis. Can you see that? Sorry, Frank.
No
So this lovely little piece of merch goes like this. It's a scarf, and if I put it the other way, it actually comes together in a maple leaf. All right, so we've got that, and Frank is modeling the lovely pin
there it
as
is.
well. Proud and prosperous.
Proud and prosperous. Very
Fier et
good.
prospère. Donc, on a
Yeah.
un petit peu de marchandises, un petit peu d'items promotionnels qu'on est très heureux d'avoir pour cette campagne. Merci d'être avec nous ce soir. Et ce que je vais vous inviter à faire, c'est de nous envoyer un courriel à l'adresse hello@frankbaylis.ca, nous dire pourquoi vous avez voté pour Frank comme chef du Parti libéral du Canada. Et on va envoyer gratuitement, bien sûr, on va envoyer le foulard avec le macaron. So let me just repeat that in English, because we're so happy that you joined us and you're watching with us this evening. We're going to be giving away 5 of these promotional scarves with the pin that Frank is wearing. And to get one, you need to send an email to hello@frankbaylis.ca and tell us why you're voting for Frank Baylis as your number one pick for leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. And we'll choose from 5 of those. All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to have a bit of an informal talk this evening because it's Friday. We want folks to be relaxed at home too, watching us. So we're going to have a bit of an informal chat, and then I'm going to get into a few of the questions that people have sent us as well, because I do want to get to some of those. So first of all, tell us how the campaign's going.
So I'm a little tired. We've been traveling a lot, meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of media, more and more media as the campaign went on. And yeah, it's been wonderful. I've been really blessed to have an amazing team, to have so many people messaging me. In fact, literally overwhelmed with messages. And I like to respond to every person's message. If I haven't got back to you, anybody there, I will get back to them, but I am working my way through all of the messages and that. Really great message of encouragement. And I could say overall, I'm extremely happy with the way the campaign went. Yeah.
What's been the highlight so far? I know it's not over yet. We still have a couple days to go, but so far.
You know, when we did the campaign launch and we did it at Groupe 3737.
Yeah.
And I was just a room full of friends and family and supporters that I've known for many years, and the room was packed, and they were all there to encourage me and support me. It was really touching for me. That was really a touching moment, and I was very grateful to see all those people there, and they knew me, so it was not like a lot of other people that across the country were just getting to know me, and they were there to support me in that, and they filled the room, and it was just really that was a great launch. So I felt great about that.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that's on a lot of Canadians' minds, and I know it starts with the T letter, Frank, and I know it's something that you don't love to discuss, but you know, the reason I'm bringing it up is that it's been such a roller coaster these past few days with tariffs being on again, off again. It just kind of feels like he's jerking our cord right now. And so I want to come back to something that you said during the debates, where you said, you know, we can't respond to every single tweet, to every single threat, to every single gesture on his part, because he's an extremely unreliable, unpredictable partner. So it's kind of looking like you were right about that. So yeah, how do you view the most recent developments?
So what I'd said right from the beginning is he cannot put 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and then attack China at the same time. It's ridiculous. His 3 biggest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, China, and he's attacking all of them at the same time. It's not going to work. Now, I had been in Linamar. It's the biggest auto parts manufacturer in Canada. And I was there with their chief executive chairman, Linda. And she had told me that she'd already spoken with the heads of the three big auto companies, GM, Ford, and Stellantis. And they can't take these tariffs because not only that, but check this out. They're the importers of record. So when he puts 25% tariffs, GM, Ford, they have to pay it, not her company.
Yeah.
And she said, we talked to them. So Trump being Trump, he says, I'm doing this, he does it. And you probably saw in the news one day later, the three presidents are calling him, what the heck are you doing? And he says, I got to take it off. And so what he's trying to do, people should understand this. If I were to ask you, what's his demand? You don't know, right? You don't actually know. What does he want? And I'll tell you what he wants. He wants to dominate us. That's it. And he can't do that because the minute he tries these tariffs to dominate us, he's destroying the American economy. So us going down and trying to be nice with him, waste of time. It only encourages him to be more aggressive. For us thinking that we can negotiate with him, we have a contract. We don't need to negotiate anything else. He needs to learn that he can't do this. And he's seeing it from his own people. It's the American car companies told him to stop this. Nothing Canadians did. It's the U.S. stock market crashing. And it's this threat of inflation already starting to percolate back up in the United States. He says, okay, look, he can't do this. So I go back to what should be done. Instead of going to see Trump, forget him. Go to see President Sheinbaum in Mexico, speak to all the other people that are threatened by his tariffs and say, let's operate in unison. If he attacks you, we stick together. If he attacks us, you stick with us.
So forming some kind of a strategic alliance with other partner nations to Canada so that we can react together.
We react together, and he cannot fight all three of us. They're not that strong, and their economy will suffer tremendously. So we're not going to reason with them. Only force will understand it, and that's what I've said right from the beginning. Just play hard, and we have cards. We have a lot of cards we can play to use his language. You see, I can use Trump's language because I think like him. And I'll say, look, if you want to do this, do it. We're going to destroy your stock market. And Americans, like I tell people, they love their stock market.
For sure.
And to see that going down, even the threat of tariffs, we're bringing it down.
So what do you make of, just one last question on this, because it's just, I know it's been.
I think it's important.
Then we'll get to the light stuff.
I think it's important for people to know is that we're Canada. We're much more than not being Trump. We're much more than what Trump's trying to define us or not. So what I was saying, and a lot of the times I'm doing interviews and that, I'll talk a little bit about Mr. Trump, but that's it. He's not that important to us. We'll deal with his threats when they come, but that's it.
I agree, but I am going to ask you one small last question, because this is more about Canada's reaction, and I just wanted your comment on what Justin Trudeau has said in Mélanie Joly, where they said, the whole fentanyl, the whole border protection thing was kind of a smokescreen, and in fact, he's trying to kneecap our economy because there is a real threat to our sovereignty.
Well, they're wrong. They're wrong to even they're dangling something in front of him. And if you recall, it was after Prime Minister Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago, he started going, you know what? Now you're going to be Governor Trudeau. Now you're going to be the 51st state, because he opened that door. He opened that door. He should have never gone, and he should not tell him you have any power over us. Even like them saying that again is only encouraging him. And it's not true. He has no power. He can't hurt our economy. He cannot touch our sovereignty. He cannot do that. He can tweet all he wants, so he's blue in the face. Okay? So we need to stop reacting to every one of his tweets. We need to get together with the other people he's attacking and say, look, if you want to have a go at us, let's have a go at it. I want this 25%. I was hoping that he'd keep it for 2 weeks, because then his economy would really hurt, and then it'd be over. And then right away he takes it off. Okay, but I'm going to keep it in my back pocket for another 30 days. So again, he's trying to hit us with a hammer, and then he knows he can't actually do it. So what we need to do is get together with our allies, put an end to this. And look, I tell people this. It's like there's a bit of a fire in front of us, and you got to cross that fire. And so people stare at the fire, and oh my God, I'm going to get burned. Oh my God, it's going to be terrible. And we get ourselves in a panic situation because we're staring at the fire. What I tell people is just look past the fire. So you know what? Yeah, we might get burnt for 10 seconds or 15 seconds. In this case, he might have tariffs on for 2 weeks. Okay, it's not good. It's not good. But after that, it's over. So I would say just look past it. We're going to get through this one way or the other, but we need to put an end to this constant threat from Mr. Trump.
Okay, well, I think we've evacuated the Trump question. Yeah, that's enough Trump for a Friday, that's for sure. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to ask you before we get to the questions from the people, some of the people that have signed up, and I do see people responding live as well. So thanks for checking in. Thanks for sending your messages. My eyesight's not awesome, so I'll try to read them as they come in. But I did want to ask you something else, and that is that we know that you were an MP and you left, and one of the questions that I've been getting is, why does he want to go back? So people understand why you left. And then the question is like, are you sure? Because it's, things aren't getting easier. The world is getting more and more complicated. We've got now a neighbor who's cross with us. There's a lot going on in the world. What is inspiring you to jump back in?
So why did I leave? When I was there, the place is not properly functioning. It's not properly functioning. And so I said, okay, look, I'm going to try and make changes. I brought forward something called Motion 231, and I worked with conservatives, liberals, NDP, and the Green Party, because I'm not a hyper-partisan person. And I said, let's start to make the changes to make just the legislature run better, get us back to work, get us doing work like that. And I could see, sadly, that the powers that be don't want to make these changes. It works for them. The system is working for them. So if you look at Mr. Poilievre, he finishes university, he gets on a plane, he flies to Ottawa, he works for 2 years at an MP's office, then he gets elected. He's been elected 21 years. He's paid off his house, he's raising his family. The minute he walks out of his job, he gets a pension well over $200,000 a year with cost of living. And he's this close to being prime minister. You know what Mr. Poilievre says about the system? He says, I love it. I love the system. The system is great. Don't touch it. It works for me. Well, it wasn't working for Canadians, and it wasn't working for Frank Baylis. So I tried to change it. I could see that there's no appetite for that change. And so I said to myself, okay, I'll keep these ideas in my head. But I was not going to go back to waste my time. And even more importantly, it's wasting Canadians' money. And I'm brought up, if you're paid a salary, do your job. There's nothing, every job is just as valuable as the next one. If your job is to be a doctor, be a good doctor. If your job is to be a cleaner, be a good cleaner. If your job is to be a miner, do your job. And we were not doing our work there. And it was not acceptable. So I said, look, if the opportunity comes for me to go back, I'm going to take it. But I'm also going to have an honest conversation with Canadians. Now, I didn't get as much of an opportunity to tell people what's going on there, but I want people to know that what's going on is unacceptable. Look, last fall, for almost 3 months, they did no work because Mr. Poilievre, in his desperation to have an election, he used procedural ways to gum up the whole system. So if you cared about the environment, no work got done. If you cared about the economy, no work got done. If you cared about the fisheries, the status of fisheries, no work, nothing got done. However, they all got paid. This is completely unacceptable to me. I want Canadians to be as upset about that as I am. And to say, okay, Frank, if you say you can fix it, here's the mandate, go back and fix it. That's what the beginnings of my Motion 231 we're going to do.
Well, okay, so we've got, in this next election that's on the horizon now, I think what a lot of Liberals are looking for is somebody who's going to be able to defeat Pierre Poilievre. Here's a guy who has been in the media space attacking Justin Trudeau, attacking Canadian values, making Canadians feel like our country is broken. These are his words. Canadians don't want that. Canadians now want somebody who's going to, pull together with all Canadians and lead us forward. Can you talk about your vision of how you would, bring the Liberal Party to victory against Pierre Poilievre?
Absolutely. So first of all, Canada is not broken. I'm tired of hearing that. Do we have challenges? Absolutely. Yeah. Do we have big challenges? Absolutely. But you tell me one country in the world that's, we have no problems. Everything is hunky-dory. So every country has challenges. We have ours. There's nothing broken. Oh, okay. There's one thing broken here, and it's Mr. Pierre Poilievre and his silly slogans, and he is a broken record. Round and round and round. Same old slogans. So that's the only thing that I see that's broken. We have things that we can make better, things that we can improve upon, but don't believe that anybody else has no challenges. We all have challenges, and I'm eager to get to work on those.
All right, I'm eager to get to work on some of these questions because we've got quite a few. We've got some new ones coming in and people commenting. Please continue to comment because I can see them now, and very, very interesting to read all your comments. But we did, when people registered, we asked people if they had a question that they would like to ask Frank, and many, many people responded to that. So I'm going to just kind of randomly go through and choose a couple. And we also got a comment, by the way, from somebody saying, yeah, but what is your process for choosing questions? How do we know what questions you got? How could it? Yeah, I just get to pick. That's our process.
Well,
okay.
if people should know this, whatever. I have not seen any of the questions.
He didn't get to see them.
And even I should say, one point is that when she said you're going to ask me something about Trump, I go, oh gosh, not again.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I said. Well, let's get it out of the way. But other than that, I haven't seen any questions.
This is 100% true, and I can just validate that Frank has not had a chance to prepare responses because I wanted him to be able to respond in a way that's fresh. So we have a question from Sudbury, from Richard in Sudbury. Where will your spending priorities lie? So we've talked about lots of different things, increasing our military 2% to 2% of GDP. Of course, social programs. Climate change is going to cost Canada a lot. A pandemic, we need to get ready for that as well. So he's asking, where are your spending priorities?
So I'm going to even change that slightly. I'm going to call it, where are my investment priorities? So where do I want to invest in? And I want to invest in a lot of places, but obviously I want to do it while maintaining a balance. Well, we don't have a balanced budget, but we need to work towards that. Because as you recall, we talked about the value of our Canadian dollar. Trying to keep it up means we have to bring down our deficit. It's just the way it is. We can't change that. My priorities will be really to say, okay, how can we get the economy rolling? So the investments that I want to make first and foremost in wealth creation. So I want to help businesses get up and running. I want to help universities because I really think we're squeezing our universities for, in the global sense of the budget, peanuts. So even $1 billion a year could have a huge impact on all our universities. And we're busy throwing money here, throwing money there. So universities, bringing them, we have great universities. That's going to be a priority for mine. I want to invest in all these businesses that are Canadian-based, Canadian know-how, Canadian technology, Canadian entrepreneurs, Canadian employees, and help them grow. And when I do that, then what's going to happen is we're going to have more money coming in to invest in the other programs. So I am deeply committed to our universal healthcare system, but we need to get it under control as well. And that one's not going to be more money. In fact, I'm going to invest in processes and technologies, but it's actually going to save us money. So I don't think like, okay, if I spend money here, it's always lost. No, if we do it the right way, we're actually going to get better results and cheaper. So wherever I can invest to improve productivity, to get businesses rolling, and to have the foundation of advanced economy, which is good education, those are going to be the priorities. Then we're going to get the money that we need to build our social safety net and really have it there for people, not just have it there in name, but really have it working for people.
En fait, je vais te poser la même question en français. On a reçu quelques questions en français aussi que je vais poser tout à l'heure, mais celle-là est importante parce que là, tu es en train de parler de tes priorités d'investissement, ce sur quoi tu vas te concentrer une fois élu. Alors, si tu peux donner quelques éléments en français aussi.
Oui, alors, la première chose, c'est que je m'avais demandé où est-ce que j'allais dépenser de l'argent, et j'ai dit que je n'allais pas dépenser de l'argent, mais j'allais investir de l'argent. La première place que je vais l'investir, c'est dans nos universités. En ce moment, nous sommes en train de mettre trop de pression économique sur nos universités et ils ne peuvent pas livrer toutes les éducations de la manière qu'ils devraient le faire. Alors, moi, je me dis, ça, c'est mal pensé, notre affaire. Ça nous coûterait aux alentours de 1 milliard de dollars par année pour vraiment leur aider. Et ça, c'est la base fondamentale d'une économie avancée. Alors, les universités. À part de ça, je veux investir dans toutes nos propres entreprises, nos entrepreneurs, nos employés, pour faire en sorte que nos technologies deviennent de plus en plus utilisées. Et ceci va faire en sorte que nous avons plus d'argent parce que le gouvernement va récolter plus en taxes. On va être plus riche, effectivement. Et avec cet argent-là, là, on pourrait se permettre de vraiment protéger et avoir tous nos programmes sociaux qui seront là pour supporter les gens. Alors, c'est
Super.
une idée d'investissement que j'ai. Pas de dépenses, mais vraiment des investissements importants.
Excellent. Merci beaucoup. I'm going to switch back to English now, and you will see us flipping back and forth between English and French because Frank is bilingual. Yeah, he is. He grew up in Quebec.
I did.
Yeah, so there we go. So we have that as our superpower.
That's
yeah.
it.
Okay. All right. So we got a question here from Dean, who's in BC, Fort St. John. Looking to future democracies, does Canada's electoral system need improvement? And I see some people texting in about this as well, about the electoral system. And I'm not sure if you want to talk about that. He's also asking, if so, what would you make better? And second question, should prime minister terms be limited? So you got two things in
Okay.
there.
So that's a great question. First of all, a lot of people talk about proportional representation. I am against that. I am against it because of two reasons. It works in only very, very geographically small countries, such as Israel or Denmark or that, where there's not a lot of space. And what proportional representation does is puts all the power into the leader. And I want to do the exact opposite. I want to take all the power from the prime minister, give it back to the speaker, give it back to the citizens, give it back to the MPs. Now, when you have a proportional representation system, my job is just to be really friendly with the boss because there's a list. So from 1 to 25, say, and maybe you're going to get 11 people. So if I'm 15 on that list, I'm not going to get elected. So I go and just be friends with the boss. Can you move me up? Can you make me number 9 on the list? And I air everything to the boss. I know nothing to the citizens. And especially in a big country like ours, what happens in Ottawa when it's working well is for Thursday afternoon, everybody jumps on a plane or gets back home to meet with their constituents on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we need their support. And if we're not showing up, they're going to go, this guy is not helping me, or this lady's never around, so I'm not going to vote for them. So the last thing we want to do is break that link with the constituents. And at the same time as breaking the link, giving all the power to the prime minister. So the people that would be in a proportional representation system say, why would I ever leave Ottawa? I've got no one to talk to. All I want to do is be friends with the prime minister or the leader, so he moves me up or she moves me up on the list. So I'm dead set against proportional representation. I know theoretically people say this and that. What I'm really interested in, and what my motion 231 was about, was to give more power to the members of parliament. That over the years has been sucked up by the leader. And so people say, well, get proportional representation. In fact, why? They have no power now. They all got to do what the boss says, and then we just have them even more power over everybody. That's not what we want. The best thing, first of all, is to say, let's get the MPs doing what they're elected to do. This is a representative system, so you're there to represent your citizens. So I don't want to break the link, and in fact, I want to empower them to do more. Now, the question about term limits, I've already put that out there. I am absolutely for term limits, not just on the prime minister, but on everybody. So I want 10-year term limits on senators. You come in, after 10 years, you're done. With respect to members of parliament, after you've been a member of parliament for 10 years, you're not going to leave, because let's say you're 8 years and you're elected for a 4-year term. We're not going to say 10 years you're out. But after you pass the 10-year mark, you have to leave for at least 10 years. Why? Because the system was not designed for professional politicians.
I was going to ask why.
Okay.
That was my job.
I'm sorry. But the system was not designed for professional politicians. What we want is people with their expertise coming to Ottawa, making good laws, and then not becoming a professional politician, where the professional politician's job is, number 1, get elected, and number 2, get reelected. Everything else is secondary. So I want them to come, contribute, and then when you're done, leave. And I would hold myself to that. Look, I have certain skills. I know the healthcare system, so 40 years, I can really fix the healthcare system. I know business, entrepreneurship, and I know engineering and re-engineering. But if after 10 years, say, Frank, you've done it. I mean, you've done it. Make space for someone else. And I would say absolutely. So I want to have term limits on everybody.
I think that I like this idea personally. This is one of my favorite aspects of your platform, because I do think that we have some people that have been there for a long time, and as you say, they tend to focus on being reelected. And what I like about it is that it opens the door for a more diverse representation in Parliament. So go ahead.
I'll give you another example. This is really important. When I put together motion 231, this is really fascinating. Anybody that was leaving said, Frank, I'm with you because the place has got to be fixed, and they didn't care. The ones that were staying said, I like what you're doing, but look, if we get elected or we're elected, I'm hoping to be the next minister, or the boss doesn't like this, so I can't take the risk of supporting you. But a lot of people I know, anybody who's leaving said, absolutely, we need to make a change. That's the first thing.
Mm.
The second thing is, it's very fascinating. When I presented it, there was the Conservatives used a procedure that it wasn't debated. Normally they want to debate everything, say this is terrible, you're dumb, this is terrible, And Andre Blaine Conservatives, all parties are the same.
Yeah.
And then they said we can't have a debate because we don't know which people on our side are actually with Frank. So we're just going to kill this thing because we don't know which ones are going to say, I like this idea, let's do it. So that's where I'm driving at. Yeah. That's the change that we need to see.
That's such a shame when something gets voted down for partisan
It wasn't
reasons.
voted down, it was just killed.
Eliminated.
They wouldn't risk the vote.
Unbelievable. Okay, I'm going to jump to une question en français. On a ici Juan qui nous écrit de Toronto et qui demande comment allez-vous empêcher la privatisation des services de santé au Canada, vu que plusieurs premiers ministres provinciaux sont en train de couper de plus en plus. Donc, une question sur la privatisation, pardon.
Premièrement, je crois sincèrement dans le concept fondamental de notre système de santé, c'est que c'est universel. Mm-hmm. Et que tout le monde peut utiliser notre système de santé, et c'est pas relié à ta capacité de payer ou de pas payer. Ça, c'est pour moi primordial. Là, il y a beaucoup de gens qui regardent toutes sortes de différentes manières de s'attaquer au problème, mais d'aller dans cette direction-là avec des services en privé, je suis contre cette idée fondamentalement. Alors moi, j'avais proposé plusieurs choses pour améliorer notre système de santé. J'avais même dit, et je le crois sincèrement, que nous pouvons avoir le meilleur système de santé au monde. Et puis, j'avais pas trop rentré dans les détails, mais en ce moment, nous avons juste 2 portes d'entrée. Soit vous avez un médecin, et si vous n'avez pas de médecin, on te dit toujours, va aller à l'urgence. Alors moi, je proposais d'ouvrir 3 autres portes d'entrée, qu'il y aura 5. Tu auras l'urgence, mais tu utiliserais l'urgence pour des cas d'urgence.
Les vraies urgences, oui.
Tu aurais ton médecin, mais sinon, tu aurais un autre centre qui est avec les infirmières praticiennes, qui ne sont pas au niveau carrément d'un médecin, mais ils peuvent faire pratiquement la même chose, et ils seront supportés par des médecins. Et je disais qu'on allait former 6 000 de ces infirmières à devenir des infirmières praticiennes. Nous avons en ce moment 450 000 infirmières au Canada. Wow. Alors, il n'y a pas de problème d'en trouver 6 000 qui veulent devenir des infirmières praticiennes. Et puis, je parlais aussi avec les pharmacies. Qu'est-ce qu'ils ont le droit de faire comme en termes de prescriptions et tout ça. Alors, ils sont formés pour faire autant, excuse-moi, comme ça. Mais on les laisse faire ce montant ici. Alors, je voulais vraiment ouvrir cette porte que les pharmaciennes peuvent faire encore plus. Alors, finalement, je voyais aussi les soins à domicile, qui était une autre opportunité de vraiment donner des soins à des gens qui sont chez eux. Alors, je voulais vraiment ouvrir plusieurs d'autres portes pour notre système de santé. Et en le faisant, nous aurons un meilleur système de santé et en même temps, ça coûtera moins cher.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can repeat just a little bit of that in English, because there were a few other questions that came in about the healthcare system too, but essentially it's how would you protect Canada's healthcare system from being privatized?
So, like I mentioned, I believe in the fundamental values of the healthcare system, the Canada Health Act, which is universality and accessibility for all Canadians. I believe sincerely, I'm not just saying hyperbole, I believe sincerely we can have the best healthcare system in the world. The challenge we have is we only have 2 doors to get in now. You have family doctor or you don't. If you have one, can you see him? And if not, or her, mostly it's a female professional. If not, go to the emergency. We need to open more doors. So there's 3 other doors I want to open. One is for pharmacists, and pharmacists have what we call scope of practice. What are they allowed to do? They are trained to do, I get my hands right, they're trained to do this much, but we only allow them to do that much. But different provinces are waking up to this. So for example, I know in Ontario in about a few months, they're going to allow them to start prescribing birth control pills. Before, do I really need to go to a doctor? Do I really need to get in line in the whole system when a pharmacist has all the capabilities, all the
Yeah.
training to do it? No, you don't. So if the more we can let them do what they're trained to do, that's one door open. The second door I want to open is to have 6,000 nurses trained up to be nurse practitioners. Nurse practitioners are almost at the level of a doctor, and put them to work under the supervision of doctors. And with that, we can really address a lot of the wait times and everything. So you'd have access right away. Now we have 450,000 nurses in Canada.
Hmm.
We can easily find 6,000 that want to be moved up to nurse practitioners. And the third door I want to open is home care. So letting people be in their homes and providing through all these technologies that exist, all this that we can provide you care in your home. So suddenly, instead of having two doors and one door being the emergency room, which we all know is just the wait room, we're going to let emergencies do what they're designed to do, deal with emergencies, and let all these other people access the system this way. And it'll actually cost us way less and be far more performing.
It just makes sense to me. And I think that with the fact that it's going to cost less, that could potentially be a really good argument to use with the provinces, because of course we need to get the provinces on board.
Yeah, my plan is to work hand in hand with the provinces. As the question was asked, is that every province, their number one spend, and it's always hitting approximately 50% and growing, is healthcare. So they're all looking for a solution. The difference is I've been 40 years in healthcare. So I've dealt with not doctors, nurses, technicians. I've dealt with hospital administrators. I've dealt with policymakers, government agencies, and not just in Canada, around the world. So I see what works and what doesn't work. And I want to bring that to bear in our Canadian system.
We're going to switch gears again because I want to ask some questions. There's been a few, and I don't know if I can choose just one, so I might just formulate sort of a general question here that has to do with military, because the world's changing very fast. There is a renewed interest, I think, on the part of Canadians in our Canadian military, something that I think is kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that we're feeling a little bit like we might be under attack right now. What would you do to strengthen Canada's military, to help them to strengthen in terms of recruitment and just generally, ramping up the numbers?
So one of the things I put out in my plan for the military was to start off by increasing their pay and benefits. And I was happy to see other people in the race copying me and then trying to take credit for it. I said, you can copy me all you want, but you're not going to get credit for it. And this is important because I actually had the conversations with people that do what they call exit interviews when someone's leaving. And the number one reason people were leaving the military, and we're having a hard time recruiting them, is that they're not paid enough. They're underpaid, under benefits. So we need to address that. And that's a rather easy fix. So that's the first thing I want to do, is make sure that our men and women in the armed forces are properly compensated for the excellent work that they do. Then with respect to spending more in there, I said that we should meet our 2% NATO targets, but we should do it in a way that builds our industries. Now you'll notice that the other people on the stage in the debate said, I'll do it in 2 years, I'll do it in 3 years. You can do that, but you're not getting any benefit from it. I want to do the opposite. I want to invest in Canadian industries, but the first thing we need to do is bring them up to speed so they can deliver the merchandises and the goods we want. If not, they say, well, I can spend that too. I just got to go buy American stuff or Chinese stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to buy Canadian stuff. But I first of all have to do investments in R&D. We have to. That's a CARD program we talked about, where I would go and give contracts out to companies and say, develop these technologies for us, and then we're going to pick the best ones. And we're not going to pick just one company, because we're not trying to help one company. We're trying to build an industry. So let's say I use the example of drones. We say we need drones that fly in the north that cover this distance, and all these are our specs. And they go away and they come back, and these guys develop this way, or those company develops that way. So, okay, these ones could work. We're going to buy maybe 80% from you and 20%, or maybe we'll do 70, 20, 10, depending on what we need. And then we're not just helping one company, we're building an industry know-how, industry technology, and we do it over and over again. I'll give you an example. Prime Minister Trudeau said, we're going to give $5 billion to Ukraine. Okay, we have to help Ukraine, but we're just giving them a check that they're going to turn around and buy American stuff. Wouldn't it be better if we say we're going to give $5 billion of our equipment that's come out of our factories, our jobs? That's way better for the economy, way better for everybody. Canadian-wise. That's what I want to do.
Americans have been doing that for a while. Yeah.
They do it very well.
They do
Yeah.
it very well. And so this, what the thing that you just mentioned, because I just want to explain it to listeners, Frank just brought up CARD, which is the name that he's given to the Canadian Agency for Advanced Research in Defense. And that would essentially be a way of investing that military spending in our own industrial economy, which is
to build up our
Yeah.
own industries. And by the way, I would do the same thing with another big spend that we don't think about, healthcare.
Yeah.
Why aren't we building a huge healthcare industry right here in Canada? It's one of the biggest spends the government's doing. We have the technology. I support many young entrepreneurs in the medical field because I'm medical device. That's what I do, medical space, medical technologies, pharmaceuticals. I see it. So we just need to say, okay, we're going to invest in it and use the purchasing power of the government to buy Canadian, create Canadian jobs.
Maggie is saying, why not seek peace?
Absolutely, we should seek peace.
Yeah.
We absolutely should seek peace. But people that say that we should seek peace without understanding that there are bad people in the world, you're fooling yourself. There are bad people, there are bad actors in the world. And if you don't have the ability to push back, they're not going to give you the peace. The last thing we want to do is create wars. This is a terrible situation. But if you're being attacked and you say, well, I'm going to sue for peace, it doesn't work that way. You need to be able to stand up for yourself.
And NATO is a defense force in the world. It's a defense force, and Canada has a proud history as a peacekeeping force, and that's also something that you've said that you would like to ramp up.
Absolutely. So it saddens me, but many people forget that Lester B. Pearson, our Prime Minister, won the Nobel Peace Prize for creating the concept of UN peacekeepers. That's a Canadian concept. The first deployment was Canadian soldiers under a Canadian general, and the first deployment was along the Green Line that was after the Second Arab-Israeli War, and part of the Green Line separated Gaza from Israel. I'd like people to reflect. Imagine if that Green Line was still in place 2 years ago, before the attacks from Hamas, before the counterattacks by Israel. I would like people to think about that. That's the kind of impact that Canada can have, but we don't have the soldiers, we don't have the equipment. So I said it's to build it up. So when someone says, we want to have peace, that's a great example of using military to have peace and make peace. And just think about what could have been avoided had that Green Line still been there.
So you've taken the conversation now, you've touched on the situation in the Middle East, so I want to come back to that. And again, I have this long list of questions here, and many people did ask specific questions about that, but essentially, and I'm scrolling here, guys, so yeah.
A lot of questions.
There's a lot, and I've highlighted them as well. Okay, so we had a specific question about the situation in Palestine that I wanted to ask because I liked the way this person phrased it. It's Monique, and she's writing from Toronto. Monique says, people globally are with, I'm not going to read the whole question because it's very long, are with the people of Palestine. Will you stop copying American foreign policy? And she quotes here, as Martin Luther King once said, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So I just wanted to maybe use that as a launching point for you to talk about your view on Palestine.
Well, first of all, the bigger question is, should we get away from American foreign policy?
Yeah.
I put out an email about that about a week ago, and I said very clearly that if there was ever a time that we need to distance ourselves from just being followers of American foreign policy, today is the day. But we should have our own policies always. But absolutely, with Mr. Trump in power, we absolutely have to have an absolute different foreign policy. Now, specific, and when I say that, I'm not just talking about Gaza, I'm talking about the broad sweep of things that we should be charting our own path.
Yeah.
Now, specifically with the Middle East, what I've said is that we need to step up and help the Palestinians to rebuild their civil society. And that means helping them rebuild their schools, their hospitals, their homes, their roads, everything. And part of building a civil society is to respect the Palestinian people, to respect them as a people, to respect them as a nation, and also to recognize their nation. So I say that it's time for Canada to stop talking about a two-state solution and do it. And some people say I'm rewarding Hamas. No, I am not. This is not something that is tied to the October 7th attacks or not. This is something that I believe for a long time. And I believe it's a step forward towards peace. It's mutual recognition and mutual recognition of people and people's right to exist and their aspirations, and that Canada can still play a role in driving towards peace between Palestinian people and Israeli people. This is my stand. Some people have criticized me for being naive or playing into terrorists, and I am not doing that whatsoever. I'm talking about human beings, human rights, the rights of Israelis to live and exist in peace, the rights of Palestinians to live and exist in peace. I'm not talking about the leadership on either side, which I don't want to get into, but I would say are not doing things in the best interest of their own people. I would say it that way.
And I think I'm going to bring this into French as well, because I think it's an important conversation to have with everyone. En ce moment, on a entendu, par exemple, en France, il y a un sénateur qui s'est levé devant le Sénat et a prononcé un discours qui est presque viral sur les réseaux sociaux, où il dit que les États-Unis, il compare les États-Unis avec la cour de Néron. C'est-à-dire, en Europe, il y a un sentiment qu'il faut se protéger des États-Unis, qu'il faut vraiment se distancier des États-Unis et commencer à penser à la sécurité de l'Europe comme étant indépendante de la sécurité des États-Unis. C'est du jamais vu depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, je dirais. Et donc, j'amène ça comme ça parce que tu viens de dire que c'est important pour le Canada d'avoir notre propre politique, notre propre défense qui est distincte de celle des États-Unis.
Oui, j'avais dit clairement qu'on ne devrait plus être à la remorque de la politique étrangère des Américains.
Oui.
On doit arrêter de les suivre et c'est à nous autres de dire qu'on est Canadiens et qu'on prend notre propre décision en ce qui concerne toute la politique étrangère. Et puis, ça, si ce n'était pas clair auparavant, c'est maintenant absolument clair avec le président Trump qu'on ne veut rien à faire avec un monsieur qui attaque l'OTAN. Il est sorti de l'accord de Paris. Il dit qu'il veut faire une forme de... Il s'attaque à toutes sortes de territoires, que ce soit Panama,
Groenland,
Panama, le Groenland, le Gaza, l'Ukraine et même le Canada.
Ce qu'il a dit sur le Gaza, c'est honteux, en fait.
C'est immoral, en effet. C'est incroyablement immoral qu'est-ce qu'il a prononcé là-dessus. Alors, moi, je dis, c'est nettement clair qu'on doit prendre notre distance et aller dans notre propre chemin.
Et juste sur Gaza et le fait ce que tu viens de dire, que le fait que le président ait dit ce qu'il a dit sur Gaza, le fait que ce soit immoral, est-ce que l'approche que tu proposes par rapport au Gaza, ce n'est pas aussi un peu en défense? Parce que dans le sens que si on ne fait rien, si on reste avec une situation telle qu'elle, ben, ça ouvre la porte à des gestes qui sont beaucoup plus destructeurs.
Écoute, qu'est-ce qu'il a prononcé, c'est complètement immoral. Et puis, on devrait être nettement clair là-dessus que nous autres, comme Canadiens, on prend carrément une autre direction. Et c'est la raison, c'est pas la raison, je l'avais déjà dit, mais c'est une autre raison, disons, qu'on se doit de vraiment reconnaître le Palestin comme un État. Nous en avons parlé pour des décennies, c'est le temps de le faire.
Très bien. I'm just looking at some of these comments too. There's somebody talking here about freedom of speech. We are losing freedom of speech. I don't know if you have a comment on that one. Anything on freedom of speech?
I'm not sure what they're driving at, but in a general sense, what I will say about freedom of speech, I'm absolutely for freedom of speech, so long as it doesn't move into hate speech. And there are times when people are saying hateful things, inciting of violence, and saying, hey, it's freedom of speech. So I think that we need to constantly be vigilant about that and let people have their say, even if we don't agree with it. But there is a line, which is once you start promoting hatred or violence, you pass that line.
Yeah.
So freedom of speech is not absolute.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, a couple of quick ones here because we have time for just a few more questions, and then we're going to do something kind of fun at the end. We're going to do a lightning round of questions that Frank didn't get to see. So, and he hasn't seen these ones either, but the lightning round is going to be a little bit more fun. Not that this isn't fun. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. Please stay tuned. So we have Gek B from Victoria. BC, saying, how can we prevent Poilievre from winning the next election?
I think actually, and I don't want to brag on myself, but I think that I'm actually the person out of all the contestants that really can separate himself from Mr. Poilievre, in the sense that I can portray him for exactly what he is. He's a career politician who's excellent at making slogans. That's his job. That's what he does, and he gets himself reelected and reelected. But I think Canadians are looking for real solutions, and they're looking for a new direction. And so I think that Mr. Poilievre, up until when Mr. Prime Minister Trudeau decided to resign, he was looking at a massive majority. But when I went across the country, I wasn't meeting a lot of people that said, I like Mr. Poilievre, or I believe in what he's selling. You don't even know what he's selling, actually. But they were just tired of the direction of the present government. And that's understandable. It's been there for 10 years. And if you remember, my term limits was 10 years. So there's some method to the madness there. But people are looking for really a new direction. I obviously offer that more than the other contestants because I've not been elected for 6 years and I've not been part of the Trudeau government for that time. And even when I was elected member, I was not a minister or a major contributor. I tried to do my thing, but I wasn't part of that direction.
Can we just dwell on that for 1 second? I just want to dwell on that for 1 second, okay? Because I feel like this is a point that is lost on many people, okay? There are 4 contestants in the race. Maybe Frank might not be comfortable saying these things. Maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable saying these things. 4 contestants in this leadership race, 3 of whom are very closely connected to the present administration, either as minister, former minister, or advisor. So I think that this is something that really distinguishes you from the other 3.
Yeah, obviously it does. I'm trying not to say what the previous administration did was good or bad for 2 reasons. First of all, I'm a liberal, and whether I agree with everything or not, that's one thing. Second thing is I'm a forward-looking person. So a lot of people, Mr. Poilievre was going to say, 3 years ago you did this or you did that. And I say, let's leave that to historians. Canadians want, what are we doing tomorrow? I have my challenges today, and I'm going to leave historians to debate whether it was a good administration or bad, if this should or shouldn't have been done. I'm here today and saying, look, how do we go forward? What's the new direction I want to take us in? And I want people to understand that. And my new direction is a strong, resilient economy. It is the best healthcare system in the world. It's in a modernized, functioning federal government, the legislature and the bureaucracy, and moving forward like that. And if I get half that done in 10 years, I'll be very happy. And then not even 10 years, 6 years, and I'll say, okay, I've done my share. And I need to make space for the next person too. So that's what I'm really focused on. And I know people want debates or that, say, show them that he's wrong or get in an argument like that. It's not something that interests me. What really interests me and excites me is say, let's get to work and fix these things. Let's really get Canada humming for Canadians. That's where my mindset is. That's how I think. I am going to look very, very different from Mr. Poilievre. I give this example, and I'll do it here again. I'm walking down the street. I look on the ground. I see something broken. I can't help myself. I'm a professional engineer and I'm an entrepreneur. I say, okay, I can fix it this way. I can do this. I can do that. Click, click, click. That's how my brain's working. Mr. Poilievre's brain is going, don't touch it. Whatever you do, don't touch it. And his brain's going, how can I blame this on the Liberals? Or how can I get votes out of this? How can I make a slogan out of it? I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I'm really interested in just getting down there, fixing these things and moving on to the next thing.
That's for sure. So I think that's what I was also trying to say is that it's more about your approach, how you would approach things.
I would say one other thing too. I don't like him running down our country. I fundamentally don't like it. And he's been doing it for a very long time without proposing any positive solutions. Just this is no good, that's no good, this is broken, this is terrible, this is that. And that really upsets me. And I get along with most Conservatives when I was there, most NDP. People should know that. When I left, I gave my leaving speech and I got a standing ovation from the whole House of Commons because I said, you're all my colleagues, and they knew that. And they knew that I never got involved with this name calling or this denigration or all that. I refused to do any of that stuff. And people there knew that and respected me for it.
Wow. That speaks volumes, actually. Just that.
Well, I do consider them my colleagues. And I will tell you the reality, and I'd like people to know this. What I found is 80 to 85% of people that are elected are very good people. They're working hard for our country. And we might differ on how to do things or what's the priority, but everybody wants to help families. Everybody wants to help seniors. Everybody wants to help students. Everybody wants to create good jobs. Everybody wants a clean environment. So we all want the same things. It's just, do we put this as a priority or is that a priority? And how do we go about it? But I found that the vast majority of people, that are very good people. I found also that some are hyper partisan and just you can't reason with them. And they're in every party. They're in the Liberals. There's some in the Liberals. There's some in the Conservatives. There's some in the NDP. Unfortunately, Mr. Poilievre is one of those ones. That's my personal opinion. That's what I found about him. And I think Canadians should know that. The best example I can give is what I said in his absolute hunger, desire for self-promotion, for him to become prime minister. He thought it was fine to completely shut down the government for 3 months, all the while getting paid. This, I think, is completely unacceptable. I will let people know this is what he did. People need to know this. They need to know, everybody watching, you're all paying taxes, whether it's GST or some way. That's where your money, part of it filters all the way through the system, went into his pocket to do nothing. And he stopped everybody else from working. It is unacceptable.
I wanted to point out that a couple of the texts that are coming in have to do with voting. Today, I believe, was the last day to be registered, to have your registration validated by the Liberal Party so that you could vote. If you have completed your registration and you're still having difficulty voting, you do have until Sunday to be able to vote, and you can reach out to our team. We may be able to help you. I'll give that same email, hello@frankbaylis.ca, which is also the email that I've invited folks to write to if you would like to receive one of these lovely scarves that comes together to form a maple leaf in the center. It's a Frank Baylis scarf. So you can write to us at that email, hello@frankbaylis.ca, and we'll be giving away 5 of these scarves with 5 of the pins that Frank is wearing. But also, yeah, if you are having trouble voting, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll see if we can help you. And we're hoping that the party will make some corrections, the corrections that need to be made for those who have not yet been verified and have not yet been able to vote. I probably have time to get in 1 or 2 more questions before we go to the lightning round and wrap things up. We have a question from Saskatchewan, from Barb in Regina, who's asking a question about, because you talked about being able to exploit natural gas and bringing it east and west so that we're able to send natural gas to both our European partners and partners in Asia. And her question has to do with Quebec, and how will you ensure that Quebec agrees to stop buying foreign oil and to get its energy from Canada?
So I think our government did not do enough to fight for Energy East when it was proposed and there was a dishonest conversation that happened in Quebec where they come out saying, some politicians said, look, we have clean energy, we don't want dirty oil. That's completely wrong. It's not true. Quebec gets 40% of its energy from hydroelectricity, 60% from fossil fuels. So the question is an excellent one. Why should we be buying foreign products when we have Canadian products can do the exact same thing? So I will be absolutely working on these projects. I proposed 2 pipelines for liquid natural gas, one to go to the east and one to the west, to work for the Asian market and access the European market. Both places where we're burning coal and oil, and we can replace with liquid natural gas. They've all said they want it. It's much better for the environment. It diversifies our markets and it helps our economy. So we should absolutely do this. And what I proposed was also for the federal government to take on the responsibility of getting the corridor approved, because there's a lot of work in there. And what happens is that companies don't want to take on that challenge because a new administration comes in and they change all the rules on them. And then someone else comes in and changes the rules again. So they can't have any kind of clarity on what's going to happen. So I said the federal government should say, okay, this is the negotiations that need to happen with the provinces, with the First Nations and anybody else. We'll do those negotiations. We'll get the corridor. Once the corridor is there, we'll go out to tender and say, who wants to build a pipeline? But the people building pipelines say, okay, we have certainty that we can build it. That's a challenge that I would take on as a federal government to help get these pipelines built.
And you've also talked in your energy plan about improving the grid, the interprovincial grid. for energy transmission between provinces as well, something that is desperately needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with the electrification of our society, cars, everything, we need to be able to move electricity much cleaner, faster. So the government of Canada should think like when they built the railroads right across, we need to build these grid systems that we can share electricity all over the place. And also, especially when we're going to go to renewables, well, guess what? It might be sunny here and not sunny over there, or it might be windy today here and not over there. And you can't store these things up, or it's very difficult to. Keep in mind, I am an electrical engineer by training. So what you want to be able to do is use it where you don't need to use something else at the time. So we can, if we have, like in Nova Scotia, they still have a lot of coal there. So if we want to get them off that, we can use energy coming from some other place if it's abundant at that given time. And if not, they say, look, unfortunately, we have to fire up the coal plants, but it's a way to use electricity intelligently, and especially renewable.
I like that. We've got about 5 minutes left, and we've got a lot of folks online, and some people are admiring my scarf. Il y a des gens qui, qui me disent qu'ils aiment le foulard. Alors, si vous aimez le foulard, le macaron,
il aime pas mon macaron.
c'est plus petit, c'est plus petit. Alors, je vais juste vous montrer, c'est difficile parce que, OK, voilà. Alors, ça fait une belle feuille d'érable ici dans le milieu. If you love this as much as I do, then please send us a little email to hello@frankbaylis.ca, and we will send you one. 5 people. We're going to choose 5 emails. Okay, it's time for the lightning round. Okay. I know you've been waiting for it. So here we go. The questions that were prepared and that Frank has not seen.
Okay, here we go.
It starts easy, it gets harder. Okay. Favorite hobby?
Sports. I like playing sports.
Which one?
Tennis and hockey. Sorry, 2.
Okay, 2. Okay,
summer sport, tennis, winter sport, hockey.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Good. Who was your favorite Prime Minister of Canada? Do you have a favorite Canadian Prime Minister?
I don't. I think each one of them brought something to the table, and each one of them. I have a favorite political figure, which would probably be Nelson Mandela. If I look at it in a bigger, in a worldwide scale, he would be the person that I would really, admire tremendously.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. What was your favorite part of being an MP? Your favorite part?
Meeting the people. I met people from right across the country. I mentioned that I got along with Conservatives, NDP, Liberals. That is the best part by far. There's so many wonderful people I've met. It's absolutely a gift. That's the gift of politics for me.
Meeting people. Cool. Okay, here, this one. Okay, I said they get harder, right? Okay. What is Pierre Poilievre's Achilles heel?
He loves himself. He loves prancing around. He is more interested in himself than in our country. I think that's obvious to anybody that's seen him in the House of Commons, seen him talk and that. And I don't like to attack people or run them down, so I'll leave it at that. But I would much rather see, look, Liberals can't be in power forever, so it's sometimes going to be Conservatives or someone else. I want to see good leaders on all sides. I think it's good for Canada. And I'm more interested in what's good for our country than I'm interested in what's good for Liberals. I want people to know that. It's more important for me to see, let's do what's right for Canada, as opposed to let's do what's right for our party, or let's do it right to get me elected. So you can see that's the order, my priority. Country, then party, then me. His is the opposite. Him, party, country.
Wow, that's a heck of an Achilles heel right there. Okay, 5th and last question. When you become Prime Minister, what is the first thing that you do when you're in office? First thing.
Jeez, have a coffee. So, what have I got myself into? I'll sit down. Look, I'm not a big believer in this, like, what's the first 100 days and all that. It makes for good press, but there's an old, saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with 1 step. So what I would do is sit down and say, okay, look, what mountains are we climbing, and let's put in place the processes to get there. And I won't be trying to do like a big splash or this is the first act or whatever. I really believe in let's just get the plans going and rolling them out step by step.
That sounds very reasonable.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get that right after I have my morning coffee.
Okay, the coffee first, and then.
Well, I drink tea actually.
Okay,
so.
All right. Well, I think they probably have tea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listen, we've really enjoyed this. I hope that you enjoyed it. We've had so many comments, and I wish I could have read more of them. I'm just looking at some of these. Thank you. Okay, some people saying that they voted for Frank Baylis. We love that. We love hearing those comments. And then we have a couple of people saying that they're still having difficulty voting. So I will say one last time, hello@frankbaylis.ca, and we'll try to help you out. Merci tout le monde. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. And I'll give the last word to Frank.
I'd like to say thank you for hearing me out. I really appreciate that. It's meant the world to me, and I want to thank every single body that supported me in many ways or sent me encouraging notes. I'm extremely grateful. So thank you, sincerely. Thank you.
Merci. Au revoir tout le monde.
Ouais.
Look,